Okay, if you're watching this, that means that you've probably seen Final Destination Bloodlines, or you're not gonna see it and you just want to know what happens. So if you're either of those people, hi. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. Today we are going to be talking about Final Destination Bloodlines. I already did a spoiler-free review on the movie that's on my channel, but today we're going to be talking about the movie but with spoilers because there's a whole lot I have to say about it. The whole premise of this is the same but also not the same. It's the same thing, like someone is having a... Actually, you know what? Scratch that. It's not the same. Okay, here we go. Plagued by a violent reoccurring nightmare, college student Stephanie heads home to track down the one person who might be able to break the cycle and save her family from the grisly demise that inevitably awaits them all. So, oh my gosh, the ratings for this are pretty high. We got the highest rating so far is 4 stars, 3.5, and 3. So I gave this 3 stars out of 5. I already said this in my spoiler-free video, but this was not my favorite Final Destination movie. If anything, it's my least favorite Final Destination movie. But even that description alone, like that is what happens, because it almost didn't feel like a Final Destination movie at all. And something that really bugged me, like one of the main thing that bugs me is that they didn't even have the audacity to make more references to the other movies. Like they barely do. And I was keeping an eye out. Like I really was, because I've seen all those movies multiple times, like multiple times. They're my comfort watch movies. All right. I've seen those movies so often that I know what to look out for, if they were going to leave any Easter eggs, any callbacks, any whatevers. The most significant one that they did was referring to Kimberly, who had the premonition in the second movie with the car crash scene. They referenced that one because in the second movie, they explain the logic of this world very much so. That's where it's explored the most, I would say, aside from this Bloodlines movie. They give a whole explanation. So the main premonition in this movie takes place in kind of like the Strat in Vegas, where it's like skinny, and then it's like big round thing at the top, you know. And there's a restaurant up there, and it starts off in the 60s, I believe. It's the grand opening of this very tippy top like restaurant thing, where it's just like on a very unsecured structure. The premonition she has is that the glass breaks. That's the floor of the building at the very top is glass. I don't know who designed that, but it's glass. And so the premonition is that the glass breaks, and then fucking everyone falls through and things catching on fire and blah, blah, blah. Which I was like, when I first heard it was about a restaurant, I was like, okay, I'm down for that, because restaurants really are a death trap. Like the amount of injuries you can get at a restaurant are insurmountable. All right, you could die. It's a death trap. It really is. It being a restaurant didn't really come into play too much, except for like there being fires. So yeah, that I felt like was okay. I didn't like, so the premonition happens, and usually you would see like the person go, you know, like that's so Raven. Like I just had a vision, you know, where she's like, oh my gosh, we need to stop. Everyone needs to get out of here. Like blah, blah, whatever. That doesn't happen. It just ends with the premonition of everyone dying, and like that's it. I think to show, because the order of the premonition of like how people die is important, and it plays a big factor. Something that I love, because I recently rewatched the 5th Final Destination, which, if you know, is actually a prequel to the first movie. It's actually takes place before Final Destination 1. In that one, Tony Todd shows up and he's like, I've seen this before, blah, blah, blah. Before you know the twist, you're like, okay, that makes sense because he was in the other movies. But after knowing the twist, you're like, how the hell does he know this? Like, what do you mean you've seen this before? Like, this is technically the first movie, you know? But now it makes sense, all right? Because he was a child at that restaurant and he was there. And so he escaped death. And the only reason why he hasn't died all this time is because in the premonition that the main girl has, they die at the same time. The main girl and JB, which is Tony Todd's character, they die in the premonition at the same time. And she has spent like all of her life protecting herself and making sure that she, you know, stays alive. So her being alive also saves JB, right? Hence why he's able to be alive all this time. And everybody in all the past movies are descendants, basically, of people who were at that restaurant the very first time when that restaurant was supposed to kill all those people. So Devon Sawa, Kimberly, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, the guy from the race car thing, the guy from the bridge, they're all descendants from the people that were in that restaurant. So I was like, that I thought was really cool. That I enjoyed, okay? I enjoyed the explanation because I've always thought, why are these people getting this premonition? Why them? It didn't make any sense to me, but I was like, whatever, I'll just go with the flow. I don't care. And it still like doesn't really care. If they didn't go that route, which I would have loved to, and they just had a typical, just like how the first 5 are, you know, formula, I would have loved that still. But I do appreciate them trying to explain why these people are having this premonition. And the granddaughter of the girl that had the very first premonition back in the 60s is having nightmares and is having visions about it, and whatever, chaos ensues, all right? Because now that the main girl that had the vision, Iris, the grandma, she dies, obviously in like a crazy way. So now it's going in order of the bloodline, right? The oldest children and then their children and blah, blah. So that I liked. With the logic of that, if these people, I mean, this is the spoiler video, everyone dies, but if those people died, you know, the main girl who's having the nightmares, then the whole then everything should be done. The whole franchise should be done then, right? Iris, who's the grandma, was the last person to live in the movie, in the premonition, and then she dies, and then everyone in the family died. So are we done with Final Destination movies? I would hate if that was true. Now, my thing about that though is maybe not, because in the movie they mention that Kimberly, who had the premonition in the second movie, the car crash one, she is still alive. They bring back the logic that was discovered in that movie where if you die and then come back to life, you cheated death again and it skips you and it'll go on to the next person. Like you just gained your whole life back basically. Death skips you and it'll just go on to the next person. And so that's what happened to her. And they mentioned that she's still alive, because I was always like, I would have loved if it was Devon Sawa, if that was alive. But this guy, you know, it's not him because they killed him off in a stupid way that I'll never get over. But anyways, yeah. So I think that's the next route they could take with this, is something with Kim and her, if she has children or, you know, something like that. If she could still be in this franchise in some way, shape, or form. I think it's AJ Cook, which I never recognized because she has brown hair in the movie, and in Criminal Minds, she has blonde hair. But I would love if she came back for this. Like, please, girl. Please, we desperately need you. But yeah, in terms of like the specific deaths, I didn't care for much of them. I didn't actually really like any of them at all, now that I think about it. They didn't feel Final Destination-esque. Like the ending scene didn't feel okay, I won't say the ending thing, because the ending scene was like, that is so Final Destination. But the one before that, the scene before that, did not feel Final Destination-esque. It just felt action movie-esque. Like that's my problem, is that it felt very modern, but I would have loved if the deaths in this movie kind of leaned into it a little bit. Yeah, it's just disappointing. I liked the explanation that they went for, but I felt like because they went this route, they couldn't have the normal formula in the Final Destination movies, and I almost would have preferred that, because I feel like we still could have had this explanation of the bloodlines and everything if we still followed the same formula, like the same normal premonition. And also, it just was not really something that I think about. That's how I rate the deaths and how much I like them in these movies, is like, is it realistic enough? Is it a common thing that like I would be afraid of, that I should be afraid of? It wasn't for me. The restaurant thing, not really something I'd be thinking about. So that's, you know, disappointing. It was disappointing to me. I do love the long drawn out death scenes, death sequences or whatever, because I will always love that, and I will always love the creativity. If there's anything that this movie has, it's creativity, all right? And like I said, I do like the explanation, hence why I gave it 3 stars out of 5, even though this is my lowest rated Final Destination. I didn't even really like it that much. It's still good. Like, even when Final Destination is bad, it's good to me. Unfortunately, out of 10, I gave this a 5. Maybe I have to sit on this a little bit, but the other ones are just like, the deaths in them are just so realistic. They're like realistic and kooky at the same time. Like, they just found that perfect medium, and I just love it. I don't know. I would love if they continued on with this, even if they did this in the first place with Kimberly, because apparently she's still alive. She's the only one out of the whole 5 movies apparently that is still alive. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. I would love if she came back. But yeah, this is why it had to be a spoiler version. Obviously there was spoilers for the entire movie in this. So yeah, I just wonder if they would make another one and like death would come back for Kimberly, because she's actually technically the only one that's still alive in all of this. So yeah, if you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about all of this. I've been hearing some very mixed opinions about this movie, but those are just my thoughts, you know. This is coming from someone who loves Final Destination. Okay, I love Final Destination. I have both Deb and Sawa and Tony Todd's autographs framed in my background right here. Okay, so yeah, let me know what you think about this movie below. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Thank you all so much for supporting me. And if you want to check out my Patreon and get videos earlier than when I post them here on YouTube, or just some extra support for me and the channel, link for that will be in the description below. Okay, so if you've seen Final Destination Bloodlines, tell me your thoughts and opinions. I'm so interested to see what other people think about this, especially people who love it as much as I do, love Final Destination as much as I do. Let me know what you think. Tell me where this fits in your ranking. Overall general statement of my opinion for this movie is disappointed. I'm disappointed in it, and some people really like how they took it, but to me it felt just like another like action thriller-y like horror movie. It didn't feel like a Final Destination movie. It just felt like any other like one-off shoot, random one-off movie, you know? It didn't feel like it was part of anything. And that's what bugged me too, is like they barely mention anything from any other movies. They barely mention Kimberly from the second movie. They show like the logs from the second movie as well, and like that's about it. I was waiting for the end credit scene, because you know, for the 5th one it was like and it was showing like a highlight reel of all the deaths from all the movies, and I was like, oh hell yeah, let's go. Which I still would have been fine if that was the last movie that we got from Final Destination, because they already, I think that one came out in like 2011. That's already 11-12 years after the first movie came out, so there was already a big gap, and now there's an even bigger gap. That if that's true, if the last one was 2011, it's 2025 now. It was almost what, like 14 years later, which is crazy. 2011 was 14 years ago. I'll let you sit on that. Thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz. And as always, thanks for watching.